Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the field. Let's hear what's there.
Alright, I'm Kill2 with Angel Hun. We have Important Internet Spaceship League versus Monks of War during the middle of day 2. Important Internet Spaceship League have brought 2 Nightmares, 3 Tengus, and 1 Mauler.
And for Monks of War, I'm seeing 2 Macarials, a Scorpion, Damnation, Guardian, 2 Worms, and a Vengeance. Should be an interesting amount of damage coming out of this Monks of War team, but an Important Internet Spaceship League with those turret ships, man. It's going to be something else to see.
Yeah, these are 2 really weird setups. I'm super excited there's a Mauler in the tournament at this point. But I want to mention ranges. These guys both warped at max range, it looks like, to the beacon. In case anybody doesn't know, the way this works in the tournament is there's a beacon in the middle of the arena, and then there's a couple different beacons people can warp to before the arena starts that are at different angles. They warp from there to a certain range from that middle beacon in the arena. So these teams were pretty close together, even though they warped to max range. Seeing that Scorpion for Monks of War take a lot of damage right off the bat from this Important Internet Spaceship League team. Thanks for having such a long name, guys.
I don't know. Yeah, that is a really long name. A lot of damage coming to the Scorpion, not much damage really coming out of the Monks of War team at the moment. Looking at the Macarials, they do seem to be firing, looks like EMP. I believe those are autocannons as well, as we've been sort of accustomed to seeing. It looks like that Scorpion has stabilized on its damage and it is slowly going down much more, and it seems that Important Internet Spaceship League has changed targets at least somewhat to the Macarial.
Yeah, they realize that Mauler is never going to go down because it's such an incredibly good ship, so they've switched. The Scorpion really struggling. This Guardian does have a lock, so logistics are getting to the Scorpion, but this is an armor tank Scorpion, which I guess isn't all that uncommon since usually the mids are E-War, but there's not a lot of low slots there, so he's having a hard time. At the same time, damage starting to spread out a bit, like you said. The Monks of War Macarial starting to take some damage as well.
Yeah, it looks like that Monks of War Macarial is now bleeding into armor, but I'm almost positive he should be armor tanked with that Guardian accompanying him. It's interesting that the Nightmares have chosen to go in armor tank, as with that turret bonus and the 4 turrets, each damage mod actually counts quite a bit more towards their overall damage and DPS. It's really impressive, and looks like the first Nightmare for Important Internet Spaceship League is about to go down. A major chunk of DPS about to be eliminated for them.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that came out of nowhere. So much damage. At the same time, Scorpion does go down, so we lose Scorpion and Nightmare simultaneously. I think that's a good exchange for Monks of War. I don't know that the Scorpion was making as big a difference as the Nightmares. Nightmares really should be responsible for the majority of damage from the Important Internet Spaceship League team, so we'll have to see where we go from here. They're back on that Mauler now. I don't know if that's a good decision.
It certainly could be a good decision, as it does have a solid tank and a decent number of mid slots. They could be dampening those Macarials, which would explain why it took so long to get damage on target. Those Macarials now are right on top of the Nightmare, pretty much negating any effect those Maulers would have at this point. My Brosteps and Voltron informing me that the Mauler is always bait, but perhaps that's not the case this time around.
Yeah, I don't know what it's here for. This Macarial that's been taking damage for a while, still hanging in there, getting those reps from the Guardian, struggling to stay up. These probably are, by the way, the first armor tanked Macarials we've seen in the tournament. Most of the time, the Macarials are going to have a shield tank. They're going to have damage mods in the lows. It's a little rare to see them with armor these days, but it's working so far here as we do lose that Mauler. Yeah, that's a really big deal. Mauler probably the linchpin for Important Internet Spaceship League.
Yeah, it looks like it. That the Nightmare does seem to be slowly bleeding into armor. At least one Macarial is right on top of him. Drones all over the place, mostly armor maintenance bots from the Monks of War team. It looks like the one of the first Macarials is going deep into armor at this point. I'm not sure if the Guardian is able to compensate for the damage of the Nightmare. If that Nightmare goes down first, though, it should be able to hang on. Important Internet Spaceship League Nightmare is going into deep structure at this point and is down. The last major chunk of DPS is down for Important Internet Spaceship Leagues. That leaves them with 3 Tengus on the field versus 2 Macarials, Damnation Guardian, 2 Worms, and a Vengeance.
Yeah, looking real good for Monks of War right now. I do want to apologize a bit for all the sarcasm about the Mauler. It's such a funny ship to bring to the tournament. I don't know how you could justify it, but it was fun to see. At this point, looking really bad for Important Internet Spaceship Leagues. I don't know how I feel about either of these setups. I mean, we've seen kind of a Damnation Guardian-based turret setup do well in past tournaments. Seen it do a little bit in this tournament already, but in the past, traditionally, you use something a little faster. You used fleet stabbers in the tournament where you're able to field a lot of faction cruisers, or you use hurricanes or cyclones in AT7. I don't know how I feel about Macarials as the damage base. They're kind of a little susceptible to being shut down because so much of that damage is concentrated on just a ship or two. They are going to do it, though, in this match. I mean, it worked here, but they were up against a setup that only used 6 ships and kind of didn't seem to have a lot going for it, really.
Looks like the majority of the DPS was really concentrated in those Nightmares, so that's taking really any possibility of utility ships out of the equation. Even the Guardian is tanking these Tengus at the moment, and 1 Tengu already been destroyed for the Important Internet Spaceship League. It's an interesting setup for Monks of War. I'm not sure if it would work again, especially against a curse-based or even a Balgorn, not necessarily flagship-based setup. I think it's really susceptible to webs and newts, and especially to tracking disruptors like that little Sentinel in the last match really proved to be quite effective for a long time.
Alright, I've just gotten some word, again, from my awesome helpers in the Club Bear channel, that one of these Tengu pilots for Important Internet Spaceship Leagues is Kanagawa, the epic hero Tengu pilot from AT7. So if anybody remembers that, here he is again. This setup not doing as well. He provided us with one of the most memorable moments from last year's tournament, and I recommend going to find it on YouTube if you haven't seen it before. In this case, he's not going to be able to do anything quite the same, although this Macarial is taking damage now. Maybe this hero pilot will pull it out once again. We'll have to wait a little longer to find out, I guess.
Yeah, but waiting with bated breath to see if he can pull it out once again, maybe coming out from the wings and just, getting it done. It doesn't seem like the Macarial is in too much of a worry. Guardian does seem to be able to keep him alive at this point. The Tengu's really shouldn't be able to take that Guardian down. Those missile-based ships against the Guardian, unless it's just an overwhelming number of amount of missile spam, the Guardian should be able to tank it with its low sig radius.
Yeah, I think Monks of War is fine right here. Good job for them. I mean, doing well with this setup that's definitely a little out of the box. I think the Important Internet Spaceship setup is kind of interesting. I kind of like the idea, actually, of using the Nightmares for DPS, and then the Tengus, I would hope, are providing a little bit of EOR support. I think the Nightmares are going to struggle because it's hard to keep things where you want them when you're just operating kind of on your own. There's not enough tacklers here. The Mauler, really their only ship that had kind of the leftover utility to do some tackling. So maybe some potential there working with a Nightmare and kind of some support that's mobile like this, but all in all, I mean, it really lacks logistics, it lacks mobility, so I don't know. An interesting idea, but I think we're seeing here that it's not quite going to cut it in this tournament.
I really think the lack of utility ships from Important Internet Spaceship League just didn't let them overcome the repping ability of that Guardian. My Brosess and Shut Up and Play channel in-game have been telling me that that Guardian can easily tank a huge number of missiles just by pulsing an AB and speeding around the match, which does seem to be a pretty solid plan. It definitely works on TQ. I'm not really sure what these worms are for. They do seem to be making somewhat of a difference. I'm not really sure why the worms were chosen over Ishkars. Maybe a point issue, but I do find that in balance, the Ishkar is a better ship than the worm. It looks like the last Tengu is approaching peak recharge. They're about to break it, and it should be going down soon.
Yeah, we're gonna lose him pretty shortly. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. These Tengus in this fight actually kind of reminded me of Drakes. They kind of just didn't contribute a lot. I think you need to have some kind of identity to your team set up and have kind of a more distinct role. Unless they were providing a lot of E-War that just didn't work, there wasn't too much there. So we did lose Kamigawa right there, the hero from last year, and with that, Monks of War take a real nice victory off of important internet spaceship leagues. We'll go back to Soundwave.
Thank you very much. As you said, Kamigawa not able to repeat his fantastic performance from last year, and Monks of War taking that victory with quite a few ships still on the field. Our 1640 Eve time match is IAC versus the Wrong Alliance, so tune back in about 10 minutes and we'll be back.